The following SpongePod is brought to you by Chum Bucket. Now, when I say chum, what do you think of, Tim?
I think chum is what they use to like attract sharks in the water.
Yeah, that is true. When I think of chum, I think of the amazing dining experience. Now, how lucky is it that the premier restaurant of Bikini Bottom is the Chum Bucket?
Oh, I never thought of that. What type of food does the Chum Bucket have?
They have, I'm glad you asked my partner, Tim. They have all kinds of great foods. They have the Chum Burger. They have Chum Sushi. They have Chum Kombucha. They have all kinds of chum stuff.
Do they have a Chum Taco?
Let me check real quick online. No, doesn't look like they serve chum tacos. That would be pretty stupid. They have chum chili, they have chum stick, and the world famous chum pie.
So like any food with the name chum.
Well, except for tacos, because that would not make any sense, you know?
All right. Go to the Chum Bucket for your premium chum dining needs. Oh!
And welcome to the SpongePod, the official, unofficial podcast of SpongeBob SquarePants, where we overanalyze every single episode and get down to the bikini bottom of your fan theories. I'm your host and in-house SpongeBob expert, Eric. Are you ready, Tim?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Oh, yeah. It is September 28th. How are you guys doing? I hope you're good. You doing all right?
I'm doing great. Yes,
good.
I'm doing
I was
fantastic.
actually talking to the audience. How you doing, audience?
No, I know.
Doing okay? I'm sorry. That sucks. Yeah, this is a Mark Maron bit, but I agree. I will try it. I think your cousin is going to be fine. It's okay. Anyway, hope you guys are doing well. I don't know that bit is nearly as funny as I thought it could be. But anyway, today we are talking through a really great episode. It is the fun episode, a classic among all episodes. So to start off, I just kind of wanted to ask, what is fun? Do you think? I mean, it's obviously a song, but
yes. Could
it be a construct to pass the time that is our life? Do you think fun is a way to smile when the void that is life is just oh so deep? Or do you think love is a sacred state of being content in the midst of the storm that is life?
I think it could be all three of those things.
It really could be. It really could be. So check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and the YouTubes, where we are definitely active. We're definitely doing some stuff. We're going crazy. We're going buck wild on the social media. I don't know if you've seen it lately, but at the SpongePod, and you can also email your questions at thespongepod@gmail.com. Today we will be talking with the beloved Brian Troyer. We're going to talk about the psychology of this episode. Just the group mentality that goes into singing a song and joining a dude down a weird road. Am I right? So anyway, let's jump right in. It's a normal day at the Krusty Krab when all of a sudden the lights go out and the entire store goes on lockdown. It appears to all be a ruse from Plankton to again steal the secret recipe to the Krabby Patty. As Plankton gets away, our hero SpongeBob sets out to avenge the Krabby Patty. After a wild chase scene that tours the city, SpongeBob finally catches Plankton in front of the magic shop. As Plankton walks off in shame, the rest of the city comes to mock him, leaving our hero SpongeBob to feel bad for the poor crustacean. Now, so my initial thought is that when the Krabby Patty is stolen, which by the way, how do you know?
Exactly.
You know, a Krabby Patty is just like moving. And that's like the whole thing of like what the Krusty Krab is like Krabby Patty's out the window, right?
Right.
So this Krabby Patty starts to move. Like, what is this security system that Mr. Krabs has set up in the Krusty Krab?
I wonder if he's like, this gets on so dumb, but I wonder if he's like isolated, like Plankton's, something about Plankton's like essence.
It's like a foot like sensor.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Like if a Krusty Krab is like near the feet, you know?
Oh, like near the floor. Yeah, near like the bottom of, yeah.
I sneezed really loud. I cut out my mic, but you probably still heard it on Tim's. Yeah, I wonder if there's like a sensor that just really can tell when Plankton's moving. But the thing is, it's like ADT does not like buck up your house whenever, like when the alarm goes off, like 500 alarms don't come out and just destroy
Your
everyone's
house doesn't go
eardrum.
immediately on lockdown. And
the
like,
other thing too is like he breaks right through the wall.
yeah.
Like of all the security systems that you can put in place, like how about we just have good walls?
Yeah.
Like he walks right through it.
It does look like he uses like a plasma laser cutter type thing.
That
though.
is true. I guess I missed out on that. I'm
But
a
still,
SpongeBob
like-
expert. I'm not a plankton expert.
Sure.
And so I did miss out on that one. The other question, so plankton goes all around town. Like, isn't the chum bucket right next door to the crab, or the Krusty Krab?
Right. It's next door. It's across the street.
Like, why did he go through town? Like, did he have to pick up his milk or something?
I don't know. I mean, is he trying to like lose SpongeBob maybe? In the crowd,
I guess,
but
it's funny because you're like, why didn't SpongeBob just wait at the chum bucket?
right. Where else is he? It's plankton.
Maybe he has like an underground like railroad.
Yeah, like little carts
for Krabby Patties.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, so he has this like underground railroad.
Right.
He just had to meet up with his boy, who set him up with a cart.
Right.
Down 5th Street. And so you just take the elevator down, and from 5th Street, he has a tunnel that goes to the chum bucket. So essentially, if SpongeBob was waiting at the chum bucket, he would never see plankton.
Right.
Because
it
he
just
went
goes
underground.
directly into
but also
it.
because plankton is microscopic.
Yes, that's another issue with this whole thing.
Yeah. So it is kind of confusing what happened there. Tim, what did you find?
So yeah, just, this is a pretty high action sequence, and so we had someone who kind of pointed that out. And so this is from Live Die or Free Hard 0329 on Reddit. He or she says, this was the riskiest scene on SpongeBob to date. SpongeBob did all of his own stunts, and the budget on this episode rivaled whole seasons of previous Nickelodeon shows in effects charges. So I mean, yeah, this is, we get some single shots of SpongeBob going around trying to catch jellyfish,
Yeah.
but this is the most action.
It's funny because like you have Tom Cruise who does his own stunts. I wonder if SpongeBob has a stunt double. It would be pretty easy to just throw a sponge off the roof.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's another option.
So I'd almost imagine that he probably does.
Yeah.
I don't know that Nickelodeon's going to, or Viacom specifically, is going to be willing to, shell out the money to SpongeBob's insurance, if he were to break his ankle while climbing a building.
Although, is it like, I mean, it's not like, is it creaturist of us to assume that all sponges look the same?
I mean, maybe. I'm okay with that. Of all the bad things to be in the world, creaturist is probably okay.
Yeah. You know
to
what?
just
I think
assume
you're
that
right.
most dogs look like dogs, I think is okay.
You know what? I'm with you.
Yeah. And the last thing I really want to hit on here is, does Plankton really deserve our sympathy?
Yeah.
And I think here's the big question. I mean, Plankton is ultimately this character that obviously serves like this like villain type aspect of the show. But Plankton ultimately is a really interesting character because not only is he microscopic, but the only like other interaction in his life is a computer that he built.
Right. Yeah.
So he's a really sad chap if you think about it. And this episode at least sort of digs into kind of why SpongeBob felt bad for Plankton in this moment. However, I just, do you think Plankton's ever going to be worthy of our sympathy?
I mean, this episode gets him pretty close. Like, I mean, obviously there's a turn, but it gets us closer to it.
It's pretty hilarious that he doesn't understand even the concept of fun.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's jarring. Like, how has he never even had fun, like pillaging, the things that he pillages,
Right,
all the crazy stuff he does.
I feel like you could have fun on accident. Like, how did he not have accidental fun?
How did he not have fun building his store?
Oh, that's
or
true,
Karen,
yeah. Right.
like obviously the guy's passionate. I mean, you have to have fun when you're passionate, right? I mean, I think that's kind of pretty close together. I guess I don't know. Anyway, here's the second act. Even though our hero was named Honorary Town Rookie of the Day, SpongeBob feels a deep desire to build a friendship with Plankton. A few hours later, SpongeBob decides to visit Plankton, asking to play with him. Plankton immediately refuses, but after a push from his evil computer Karen, he decides to join SpongeBob. They both decide to go jellyfishing, and as Plankton struggles to understand the idea of fun, as SpongeBob really struggles to describe the idea of fun, SpongeBob decides to spell it out for him with probably what is the catchiest song of all time. After a few courses, Plankton catches on to the idea of fun, and the two frolic together in their newfound friendship. Mr. Krabs, from a distance, sees the two having fun and calls it what it is, a mutiny. So what did you see here, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it really brings up the question where, so we see Plankton being like basically happy for the first time ever. Right?
True.
And then Karen's like, where's the Krabby Patty? And it kind of brings him down, brings him back to earth. So, I mean, you got to ask yourself, like, is Plankton evil, or like, is it the influence of Karen that like makes him do these bad things?
That's really confusing because Karen is a computer that he built.
Right. So that does kind of throw engine to it.
But it's not really, because I think it's almost like how we resolve things as people. Mm-hmm. Like I want to lose weight. I really want to lose weight, but I'm not willing to stop eating sandwiches.
Right.
So it's almost like if I were to build a computer that says, no, you can't eat that sandwich, you're actually forced now to eat this, this piece of grass.
Correct.
I would probably be quite a bit more motivated, or at least inspired to do the right thing, or at least do the thing that I conceptually have agreed to do. So I just wonder if at some point the whole computer thing is really just a manifestation of what Plankton actually really wants to do.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. I mean, you get the impression that Karen's kind of AI, but also that, there's Plankton has some input, obviously, because he made her. So
I think the thing that I pulled away with is it really possible for a Plankton, like a microscopic being, to play with SpongeBob? Like what could they actually do? They're just so differently sized.
Yeah. I wonder if this is kind of an odd one, but like maybe like SpongeBob could throw Plankton in the air. I don't know. They could kind of have like a toss.
I also wonder about the strength of Plankton. Is it like a real Ant-Man situation where it
seems like it.
He has a comparable amount of strength. I mean, we haven't seen the Muscle Bob episode yet, but SpongeBob is pretty weak.
Right.
In regards to his strength. I just wonder what they're actually able to do. I mean, they're able to play they could probably play D&D together because they can talk.
That's true. Yeah.
So anything that's purely communication based or creative based, would be good for them. But but when it comes to arm wrestling or, tickling each other, they would not be able to do that.
Right.
Which is pretty tricky because I think that's pretty difficult to not be able to do that thing.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that I would have any friends if I couldn't tickle them. To be perfectly frank.
That's my experience.
And I think the other thing that I see here is keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Your enemies closer. That's why I have a SpongePod with my buddy Tim, because he doesn't know what he is. And his headphones aren't really working too well right now, so you might not be able to hear this.
What? I'm sorry. Are we still rolling?
Yes, we're rolling. All right, moving right along to Act 3. When Plankton returns, his computer Karen blames him for not keeping his eye on the prize. And at the Krusty Krab, Mr. reveals that he knows about SpongeBob and Plankton, to which SpongeBob comes to Plankton's defense. Plankton comes to the Krusty Krab to play, and Mr. Krab sets up a trap to prove that Plankton has not changed. Once Plankton obviously passes the test, SpongeBob rushes off with his friend, and Mr. Krabs actually sees that Plankton played all of them. Now, while SpongeBob and Plankton were at a movie, they were sharing a popcorn, and Bubble Bass sits on him. After a truly terrifying butt move from Bubble Farts, SpongeBob finds a Krabby Patty in Plankton's pocket. Plankton attempts to get away, but again gets foiled by Mr. Krabs and AMC 17. The Plankton then gets eaten alive by Bubble Bass. Now, Tim, what do you think about this? I mean, obviously, Plankton regresses in this moment.
Yes, he does.
He really regresses. He finds a way to screw over, their friendship. I mean, why would he do this? Now, he has a new life.
Right. I mean, there is an element to it of like the fact that ultimately, right, it is Plankton's fault. However, Mr. Krabs isn't doing him any favors, right, by setting out this Krabby Patty. And
really isn't.
I think there's almost like an aspect of like, if you want, I mean, he's an addict, right? So if you want an addict to get better, don't tempt them with something that they're addicted to. True. So you've got to have some solidarity there.
Yeah, he almost needs some accountability.
Yes,
and it could have been SpongeBob.
Yes,
it really could have been. It could have been SpongeBob, and it's really sad to see Plankton, who was on the right path.
Right,
he was on the path to redemption, just ultimately fail in this moment. I mean, that's truly what happened. Tim, what did you see in this? What did you find?
Yeah. So this is a YouTube comment from Cardi D. She says the move Bubble Bass uses, in the theater, is called a crunchy twerk, in which she is attempting to help bring the end user, this being Plankton, to see the light of Christ. What do you think about that? I don't know. I think that's a pretty bold, controversial one, but what do you think?
Yeah, that's bold thinking that a booty move can bring you to Christ. Yeah. I guess I don't really know a whole lot about that type of science. I'm more or less the type of guy that wants to go see the church. I don't necessarily want someone's cheeks to rub up against me and in a certain sequence to make me believe something about religion. But I don't know what you think. I mean, do you think if somebody rubbed their butt on you, would you be able to change your life in a way that would follow God?
I mean, it depends what kind of butt move it is. Obviously
right, left.
Obviously I dislike Bubble Bass as a person, as a fish, as a bass.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that Bubble Bass himself would be trying to bring people to Christ, specifically with booty moves.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so the last thing that we have here is just a question. Like, do you just think Bubble Bass is just a horrible person?
Yes, generally.
What is like the Bubble Bass backstory? We got to figure this out. We've got to look it up. He has to have come from he's probably an orphan.
Okay.
He's probably an orphan. He grew up in the Midwest, which is why he's a bit chunky.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he really, really likes, what do you think he likes?
I think, Bubble Bass is really interesting, especially in this episode, because he's like what you'd maybe call mild evil. Like Plankton is supposed to be
antisocial,
evil.
Right. He's like a Rick and Morty fan or something.
Yeah, he takes his shoes off in airports.
Exactly.
Airplanes, not airports. In airplanes, he takes off his shoes.
He has a bald spot in the back of his head and just does not care.
Right.
He'll just bend over and he squeaks a lot. Mm-hmm. There are parts of his body that squeak when they shouldn't.
Right.
There are all kinds of things about Bubble Bass that, but it's is he a bad person or is he just a situation built from his environment?
I mean, he might be somewhat oblivious to the fact that he's just an annoying person.
There are a lot of people that I know like that, where they're just oblivious to just anything stupid that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very prevalent. So I could very well see that, especially if he lives in the Midwest.
Yeah.
That's a very Midwestern thing to do.
I think that's the tie of Bubble Bass. Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing, do all movie theaters have cement as the backdrop? I don't think that's something that's scientific.
You know what's funny? I'm genuinely curious now. I've never thought, what is behind that screen?
It's funny because I don't think it matters. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if it does though. I wonder because, here's the thing. Why would, he could get away in any different way. Why do you have to go through the freaking screen? That costs so much money to repair that screen.
And there's exits, right? There's exits on either side of the screen.
They normally go over the exits to show you exactly where to leave.
Yeah.
Tim, can you tell me about one of your earliest memories?
No.
You can't tell me about one of your earliest memories? Just think of one memory in particular. I'm gonna give you this box. Well, here's the box that contains your memories. Here, I'm gonna stand up and give you this box. Tim, what does the memory say in the box?
Ow! Make sure to check out Palace of Pranks for all of your pranking needs. It's something.
And welcome back to the SpongePod. We have a very special guest, one of my favorite segments of the last season being a year ago. Psychologically speaking, with Brian Troyer. We are joined here with Brian. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Good. And last time we spoke to you, you were in Madison, Indiana. You've since moved to LaGrange, Kentucky. How has that been?
It's been really good, and It's been a good transition.
Nice. Very good. So today we are talking about the episode Fun, probably one of the most iconic episodes, has the catchy song. Basically, SpongeBob entices Plankton to join him in friendship. So I kind of wanted to break down the psychology or even just some of the thinking around Plankton. Do you think that people, or even more specifically like a Plankton, can just be purely evil?
So that's an interesting question because psychologically, evil is not a mental health diagnosis, right? Evil is kind of this more ambiguous, more philosophical concept.
Gotcha.
Obviously, Plankton aren't conscious.
Yeah.
They don't have.
Well, this one is somehow.
This one is, and
Exactly.
he certainly seems to have a lot of evil in him. But this, especially because it's the first season of SpongeBob, I think it gives a really interesting glimpse into Plankton's motivation. We get to see him, initially he's trying to steal the Krabby Patty, right? And it ends with him trying to steal the Krabby Patty. But in between, there's this interesting little gray period where he seems to genuinely enjoy himself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he's not totally black like we tend to think of villains.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to me.
It's really funny how something that we don't normally think to be free thinking can have such complex emotions on SpongeBob.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I was trying to kind of place Plankton, if he was sitting in my office, what kind of diagnostic criteria does he meet? And he does seem to meet the criteria for antisocial personality disorder, which is, kind of when someone says, oh, they're a psychopath, or, oh, they're a sociopath, like that, that's what they're talking about.
So would that also manifest the fact that he made his own computer that is basically his only friend? Like Karen?
Well, yeah, that's a good question too. And I think we get a little piece of that from Plankton himself. He says, you don't know what it's like to be a loser. Like he seems to just be this social outcast. And we don't know, it's kind of the chicken or the egg. Was he outcast because of the way he was, or did he become the way he was because he was outcast?
Interesting. So next I wanted to ask you, so the real variable here in a different way. So Plankton was not really receptive to hanging out with SpongeBob or even enjoying life, seemingly. But when SpongeBob started to sing, it had an effect on Plankton. Do you find music to be an effective way to help people come along to different things? Is that something that, like, is music a common way to help fix somebody from possibly evil to having fun?
So music is really, really powerful. Music therapy is a thing. Music is common across all cultures, right? It's a part of human experience, and it definitely impacts a lot of things. There's a bunch of more recent studies. It's all still developing, but studies on the impact of music in the brain.
Interesting.
And so it's been shown to, improve cognitive performance. You've probably heard, when you're studying, you should listen to jazz music or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But it gets at brain functioning. Music impacts the way that our brains function. So it can improve motivation and physical performance. So they had a study with 12 guys doing stationary bicycles. and the upbeat music. The guys that were listening to that performed at a higher level than those who didn't. And then also afterwards said that they enjoyed the music more, which was interesting.
Yeah.
It decreases depressive symptoms, which is another thing that we see a lot in Plankton. He really seems to lighten up. He doesn't take to the song initially, right?
He does push back.
Right. He jumps right in, but in his own way. That's not very healthy. But during that gray little period, we see him start to bubble up. He says,
really embrace it.
He tells Karen, "I feel all tingly," right? And that gets at a brain thing too, right? It's a dump of serotonin and dopamine, right? Those feel good hormones.
Absolutely.
And that's something that he apparently doesn't feel very often. So music definitely had some kind of impact.
So to kind of switch to our hero SpongeBob, do you think that the character's ability to really bring different or evil characters into his life, do you think that that's a really healthy habit for him to get into, or is it something that SpongeBob should really watch?
So it's definitely something he should be careful of, right? The whole time, Mr. Krabs is kind of being his
kind of an accountability friend almost. Yeah,
watching out for him because SpongeBob is pretty naive, right? We see that in just about every episode. But his balance there, the way that SpongeBob responds at the end of the episode when Plankton is kind of shown to be who he really is, and Mr. Krabs is correct, right? That's what tells us that SpongeBob's involvement with the bad person, right, Plankton,
was purely
more healthy.
Yeah,
because if this was a continual every single day he's destroying himself trying to reach out to Plankton, that's not healthy, right?
Absolutely.
But he's giving Plankton a chance, right? He sees that Plankton walks away sadly and he wants to be his friend and wants Plankton to experience friendship. And I think giving that a one-time shot is definitely not a bad thing, especially when you've got somebody like Mr. Krabs watching out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually really did find that jarring, how disappointing that whole Plankton situation would be and how okay with it SpongeBob was. I kind of think it's probably because they were coming up at the end of their time on the episode, but you're right. I mean, he does kind of flip so quickly that it probably would suggest that he is doing this from a healthy place. Well, hey, Brian, I'm so happy that we can have you on to bring the IQ of the SpongePod up a few notches. Thanks for joining us here today.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, that was a great episode of the SpongePod. Thank you for Brian Troyer for coming out, for hanging out with us here in the SpongePod, talking through some fun episodes. That was a pretty good episode. I don't know what you thought.
Oh, I love the song. It's my favorite part.
I learned it on bass.
Yeah, which is pretty impressive.
We were in the same room when I learned it on bass. I've been learning how to play bass lately. Anyway, our data researchist is Becky Thine. Our associate producer is Bentley Thine. Our creative producer is Biscuit Thine. Our child care producer is Christina Crosley. Our office assistant is Zach Cooper. Our audio engineer is Jessica Brummett. Music by DJ Eugene. Music and cover art by the man, the myth, the Milky, Michael G. Make sure to check us out on Twitter and Facebook as well as YouTube at The SpongePod, and shoot us an email if you have any questions at thespongepod@gmail.com. Another episode under our belt, another one that we can throw on the resume.
Oh, yes.
What skills do you think you would put from this episode on your resume?
Podcasting.
Okay, obviously. We have this is like the 20th.
Right. So really got a good skill. Jokery.
Okay, getting slapped, which I don't think came across on the audio medium of SpongeBob of podcasting. Anyway, nothing but SpongeBob in the corner. So, yeah,
can't do it.
Do you know what that's from? You better.
That's Dirty Dancing, right?
It is Dirty Dancing. I didn't put it on the top.
I actually forgot.
You didn't sneak it. Anyway, have a good week.